The scent of lilies had always turned my stomach, even before all of this. They were her favorite, white ones, the kind that looked like trumpets heralding some grand arrival. But today, they smelled like a funeral. A funeral for something once beautiful, something I had cherished. I heard the lock click, the familiar jangle of keys, and then the soft push as the door swung open. I didn't look up from the worn pages of my book.
Not yet.
I was waiting, listening. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor, a sound that used to make my heart flutter. Today, it felt like a hammer blow, each tap echoing the fractured rhythm of my heart. "Honey, I'm home," she called. Her voice was too bright, the forced cheerfulness grating on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. I kept my eyes on the page, pretending to be lost in the lives of fictional characters while my own life spiraled into something tragic. "Oh, look," she said, her voice closer now. "I got you some lilies. I know how much you love them." The blatant lie hung in the air like a thick, suffocating cloud. That's when I finally looked up. I forced a smile, a small, tight thing that probably looked more like a grimace. "They're beautiful, Clara," I said, my voice calm.
Too calm.
Years of practice had made me an expert at hiding my emotions. I watched her as she crossed the living room and placed the lilies in the vase on the coffee table. She wore one of her usual summer dresses, vibrant and out of place against the beige walls of our living room. Her blonde hair, which I once loved running my fingers through, was perfectly styled as always, not a strand out of place. She was the same Clara, but not the same Clara I had fallen in love with. Then she stopped. Her eyes widened, her lips parted slightly, and the color drained from her face. She looked as pale as the lilies she had brought. Where is it?" she whispered, her bright facade crumbling. I knew exactly what she meant. The wall above the fireplace, where our enormous framed wedding photo had hung for the past 8 years, was now empty. I had taken it down that morning, wiping the wall clean until not even a trace remained. "What's missing, Clara?" I asked, my voice calm, detached. I wanted her to say it, to give voice to the guilt she had worked so hard to conceal. "The picture. The wedding picture. Where is it?" Her voice trembled as she began pacing, her heels clicking nervously against the floor. The sound echoed in the silence. I closed my book, a thick biography of Abraham Lincoln, and placed it deliberately on the coffee table. "I took it down," I said, my voice steady. She stopped pacing and turned to me, her eyes searching mine, panic flickering across her face. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I leaned back in my chair and finally met her gaze. "Because, Clara," I began, my tone controlled, "a picture is supposed to capture a moment in time, a memory. A snapshot of a specific point in a relationship." I paused, letting the words sink in. "And that picture, that wedding picture, it's a lie." She recoiled as if I had struck her, confusion and disbelief clouding her features. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "It's a picture of us on what was supposed to be the best day of our lives. A day that was supposed to mark the beginning of something beautiful, full of promise," I said, my voice unwavering. "But it doesn't represent who we are anymore."
Does it?
"It's just a picture. A reminder of something that no longer exists." I watched as she struggled to piece it together, her confusion giving way to realization. Her eyes narrowed, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a flash of anger before she quickly suppressed it. "You know," I said, my voice colder now. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Her silence spoke louder than any denial. "Yes, Clara. I know," I said, letting the weight of the words settle between us. The unspoken accusations hung heavy in the air between us. "How long?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Long enough," I replied, not elaborating. I didn't tell her about the burner phone I had found hidden beneath the lining of her purse, or the countless texts and late-night calls that painted a vivid picture of her double life. I didn't mention how I had meticulously documented every piece of evidence, every small betrayal, a grueling, soul-crushing task that nearly broke me. "Who is he?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Does it matter?" I replied, my tone flat. His name won't change the fact that you betrayed me, Clara. It won't erase the months of lies and deception. She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. The lies she had woven lay forgotten on the table between us. I don't know what to say, she sobbed, her perfect facade crumbling at last. Don't, I said, my voice firm but calm. Don't say anything. For once, just listen. From the side table, I pulled out a small, flat box. Not the jewelry boxes I had given her in happier times, but a plain cardboard box tied with a simple brown string. I placed it on the coffee table and watched as she slowly raised her tear-streaked face, her red, swollen eyes filled with questions, confusion, and a faint flicker of hope. Her hands shook as she untied the string. Inside, she didn't find treasures but stacks of meticulously organized papers, bank statements, phone records, travel itineraries, and photographs printed on glossy paper. These weren't snapshots of love but of betrayal, stolen moments, clandestine meetings, and hushed whispers captured without her knowledge. She sifted through the evidence in silence. The truth lay bare before her. Her face paled as the extent of my knowledge became clear. The flicker of hope in her eyes was extinguished, replaced by pure, unadulterated fear. Everything, I said, my voice low and deliberate. Everything you did. Every lie you told. Every secret rendezvous. It's all there, Clara, documented. The weight of her betrayal crashed down on her, and the sob that escaped her was raw and gut-wrenching. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading, but I met her gaze without pity, only a deep, weary resignation. I made a mistake, she stammered, her voice choked with tears. A mistake? I repeated, the word dripping with sarcasm. This wasn't a mistake, Clara. It was a choice, a long, deliberate choice to break your vows, to destroy our marriage, to destroy me.
She didn't argue.
She just sat there, defeated, the truth finally visible in her eyes. I'm leaving, I said, standing up. I've already packed a bag. I've filed for divorce. It'll be served within the week. I gestured to the papers she held. There's a lawyer's letter in there, explaining the prenup we signed. Remember that day? The day we took that photo? The day you decided to throw it all away? I walked to the door without looking back, leaving her surrounded by the ruins of her deception. The sound of her heels on the floor, a sound that once brought me joy, now echoed like the death knell of something that had never truly existed. As I stepped outside, I drew a deep breath. For the first time in months, the air felt clean. The weight was gone, lifted by the truth and my own resolve. The satisfaction wasn't in her pain, it was in my freedom. In the memory of her pale face amidst the rubble of her white lies, I found a closure more satisfying than I had imagined. I drove away, leaving her alone with the quiet hum of her regrets and the whisper of a marriage that was never meant to be. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that I was finally free.